Hey everybody, welcome to today's video. As always, it is so awesome to see you. Thank you so much for stopping by. So I have just put the finishing touches on my first rough mix for a new song. Hooray! That means new music coming really soon to this channel. And I do hope that you will check it out when it's released. But let us have a chat today, you and I, about something in the recording process. You do not have to be a musician to hang with today's discussion. One of the things that I find to be intriguing, that is an ongoing thing in every recording session, is trying to decide, do I keep this take or do I re-record this take? And by take, I mean a recorded performance. Now, I'm not talking about mistakes here. Mistakes have got to get fixed, period. What I'm talking about are those takes that are excellent. They have got like a life. They've got a certain vibe to them. You really like them, even though they may not be metronomically or tonally perfect. A friend and I, a musician friend, were spinning some tunes years ago, having a couple beers, having a good time, and I put on a song from a group that he and I both grew up with. And it was one of those things where they had broken up and then they hadn't recorded anything for years, and then all of a sudden they released a new recording on more modern equipment. And I played it for him, and I liked the tune, but he didn't really say much. So, we went on. Then I went on. At some point, I pulled out another tune, and this was from an unknown band, probably a local band from an independent label, and he immediately lit up, and he said, that, and I said, what? And he said, okay, that other tune that you played me, nothing against the song, he said, but it was the production. The production was so polished and so perfect that it did nothing for me. Meanwhile, he said, this band, this recording is so raw. This band has got, some grit that it just oozes with feel. That conversation has stuck with me over the years. For my non-musician friends out there, it used to be that everybody recorded to tape. And for brevity's sake, for simplicity's sake, let's just say that this meant that artists back then had to rely more on talent rather than technology in order to carry them through the session. Now, this doesn't mean that artists were more talented back then than today. I'm not kind of getting into any of that stuff. But what I am saying is that nowhere in there did I use the word perfect. Artists back then would simply do the best that they could do. Sometimes it was perfect and sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes there was variance in tempos, like maybe the chorus is sped up slightly. Sometimes singers' lines were slightly flat, or guitarist's intonation wasn't always spot on. But when you put all those things together and you mixed it and kind of made it a cohesive unit, it would often take on a life of its own. The magic was there, and they became timeless classics to us with slight imperfections and all. It's almost like those flaws, if you will, became part of the song. And then people started recording onto computers, and that opened up Pandora's box of sorts. And it didn't happen overnight, but we're at least right now in a day and an age where there is the opportunity for people to rely more on technology than talent in order to carry them through a session. Doesn't necessarily mean that they would, that this would happen, but it can, and in some cases it does. I was watching a YouTube video recently about an engineer that was fixing a drum part. And I was kind of curious what he was going to do in order to fix this. And he played the drummer's track before doing the fix. And I was expecting, I guess I was expecting it to be all over the place. Tempo-wise, I was expecting maybe some fills to be flubbed or some inconsistencies in snare hits or what have you. And I'm listening back to this and I'm like, this guy sounds awesome. He had no mistakes, had a great feel. Everything was lining up pretty close to the click. It was just like, wow. And even the engineer said, oh yeah, this guy was awesome. He was pretty spot on. Did a wonderful job. But I'm going to tighten it up. And so what did he do? He took the tracks, he put them in Pro Tools, he threw it up on the grid, and then he aligned everything to be surgically perfect in time. And that happens with other instruments too. Technology's there today to fix some off-pitch vocals. Guitarists and bassists who might flub a note, those can be replaced. Drummers who walk into studios or even have a studio set up like mine, the real drums sound like crap and an engineer goes, oh, no problem, and then replaces the entire drum sound with pre-recorded drum samples. Heck, even great drum sets can enter the studio and might be reinforced with said samples. It's just a different world, I guess. Now, lest ye think that I am going to bag on technology, nothing could be further from the truth. I love technology. There's a song in there somewhere. But no, truly, the cost that it took to purchase my setup at home is a pittance compared to having to rent a studio back in the day and an engineer in order to record a project. And it's definitely being able to record from home as much flexible. It is cheaper. It's back then it used to be that recording studio that the sound quality was head and shoulders above home studios, but that gap has been bridged quite a bit over the years. And so, yeah, technology can be a huge, huge help to independent artists such as myself. I do have an underlying question for the discussion today, and this is kind of to my friend's point. Is always being perfect a good thing? Is perfectionism in music may be more harmful than good? Now, I think that there would be some people out there that would say, I absolutely positively want everything to be perfect. And I would cast no aspersions upon them. Why? Because, I listened to old recordings I did and I think, oh, dude, why did you let that go? Why did you take that one? Why did you not do another take? And it might have been good to have the technology back then to line things up and make it sound better. If people rely on technology to carry them, and more to the point, if the music is so scrutinized and surgically divvied up and made perfect, are we really taking the human element out of the recording? Are we becoming slaves to the machine? Does it lose some of its soul? Has our humanity in some ways, is it harder to peek through? Is it sounding more robotic? I'm not proposing an answer. I clearly don't have one. It's a rhetorical question at best, but is definitely worth considering. I was talking about parts and having to try to decide between them. I think one of the things that I have done lately is, I'll record a part, and if I like it, I may try to record another. And I will tend to go more often than not lately with the one that has feel, that's got heart to it, that's got a certain energy that I like about it, even though it may not be perfect. Now, clearly I'm not talking about mistakes again. You know, those have to be redone. I won't let everything slide, but you know, this has been rather freeing for me. And it's been, I don't know, maybe I feel a little bit more genuine in letting some of those slight flaws through that I might have fixed before. So what do you think? Is this much ado about nothing? Is this really not that big of a deal at all? I'd be kind of interested in hear your comments below. For those of you who may be undecided, I have a fun experiment that I would invite you to do, and that would be to go back to recordings that were made in the early 70s. This was a great era for music. You know, listen to you know, some of those old bands and their recordings in the 70s. And then I want you to go to the radio or Spotify or whatever and listen to some of the more popular modern stuff. And then ask yourself this, you know, is there something missing? Have we taken perfectionism too far? It would also be very interesting to get a generational take on this. You know, whether it is more of a generational thing, because we grew up with a lot of that stuff compared to the generation that grew up with perfection and may not know any other way. In fact, listening to it might sound kind of wonky to them, like, oh, what's that? I don't know. Anyways, leave your comments below. I definitely appreciate it. If you're still here, I appreciate you. And I hope that you are doing well as always. Until the next video, light and love to you all. Take care now. Bye-bye.